Wong factor unbound. The mountain ridge was a surreal sight. Hundreds upon hundreds of fully healed, glowing NorCal and SoCal elite warriors stood shoulder to shoulder, forming an impenetrable sea of West Coast might. Yet, they were all collectively losing their minds. On the ground behind Justin, his fallen East Coast comrades, Sanford Kelly, Yipes, Chris Matrix, Mike Infinite, Executioner, and Triforce, were barely conscious, propped up on their elbows, weakly chanting his name and cheering him on through bloody grins. And somehow, miraculously, impossibly, Justin Wong was winning. It defied physics, probability, and common sense. It was the ultimate, weaponized Wong factor. One by one, the West Coast's finest stepped up to shut him down, only to fall victim to the most absurd, infuriating sequence of events imaginable. Seth Killian tried to close the distance with a calculated frame trap, only for his shoelace to catch on a stray pebble, sending him tumbling headfirst into a snowdrift. Ricky Ortiz fired a pinpoint energy beam, but a sudden, unexplainable gust of mountain wind blew a stray leaf into her eye, throwing her aim wide just enough for Justin to casually duck and pat her on the shoulder as he walked past. Mr. Power unleashed a torrent of crimson gold plasma, but Justin slipped on a patch of ice, accidentally spinning around like a breakdancer and deflecting the blast right back into Power's own face. Like an unstoppable, troll-like virus, Justin hellstormed his way through the ranks. He wasn't overpowering them with brute strength, he was slipping through the gaps of reality itself, turning every misstep and minor coincidence into a cascading victory. Before the combined West Coast Army even realized what was happening, the waves had parted, leaving only one man standing between Justin and total dominion. Duck Du versus Justin Wong. Stepping forward into the center clearing, the newly crowned king of SoCal cracked his knuckles. Duck Du locked his eyes onto the grinning legend. "End of the line, Justin," Duck said, his hands radiating dark iron shadow traps and golden moss energy. "No more luck. No more bullshit." Duck exploded forward, initiating a masterclass of corner pressure. He trapped Justin against the sheer rock face of the mountain ridge, unleashing a relentless torrent of 1-2 punches, lightning-fast jabs, and razor-sharp shadow knives. Jab, jab, cross. Justin threw his arms up, forced into a desperate, defensive shell. He was completely cornered, locked down, and overwhelmed by Duke's overwhelming assault. "Gotcha!" Duck shouted, winding up for a devastating finishing blow. Beast! In that split-second micro-gap, by sheer, inexplicable miracle timing, Justin shifted a fraction of an inch to the left. Duke's finishing blow clipped the rock face instead, sending a shower of sparks into the air. Before Duck could recover, Justin flipped the script. The comeback paradox unleashed. Channeling the absolute peak of the comeback paradox, Justin transformed from a defensive survivor into an offensive nightmare. He didn't use heavy, telegraphed haymakers. He unleashed a flurry of maddening, low-damage, highly oppressive little hits. Tap-tap, slap, quick poke, low kick. Individually, they seemed harmless. But chained together in rapid succession, one after another, the hits built an astronomical, game-breaking damage multiplier. Duck tried desperately to turtle up, throwing his arms over his face to keep Justin at bay, maintaining his defensive lock on the corner. For a second, it looked like it was working. But the Wong factor ignored conventional physics. The sheer accumulation of chip damage began to crack Duke's armor. "What is this?" Duck gasped, stumbling backward as the flurry of tiny hits compounded into massive, concussive shockwaves. With one final, absurdly timed setup, Justin summoned a massive, spectral manifestation of Sentinel, towering over the ridge like a golden god of arcade lore. With a roaring sweep of its metal hand, Sentinel scooped Duck Du straight up into the air. Crash! With a brutal, physics-defying upward punch, Sentinel launched Duck completely across the width of the battlefield. Duck flew through the air like a meteor, slamming violently into the opposite corner of the stone floor, his eyes rolling back as he slumped forward, knocked out cold. The reign of the king. Silence descended over the mountain pass. The hundreds of elite NorCal and SoCal warriors stood frozen in absolute shock. On the ground behind Justin, the fallen East Coast crew erupted into roaring cheers, finally hoisting themselves up to celebrate their impossible savior. Justin Wong stood alone in the center of the ring, dusting off his jacket, breathing a calm, steady breath. He hadn't relied on an army. He hadn't relied on brute force. Through pure grit, unmatched psychological warfare, and an infinite supply of the Wong factor, the god of the East Coast had done the unthinkable. He had conquered the West.